rainy day in Lagos. 17 minutes past 4. I am Awogo Obo, public square, with the usual members of the square.
You're lucky to see us here, Awogo, because if we, with ideas, our focus is integrity and ethics. And the old little rhyme about the rain, it raineth on the just and also on the unjust fella, but chiefly on the just, because the unjust steals the just's umbrella. So,
Rotimi Sankore will help decipher that one, most definitely.
I'll leave it to listeners.
No, it's just that umbrellas can. The rain. The good book says that the rain falls on everybody, but a wit added to that. But it falls more on the people who are not sinners, because the sinners have stolen the umbrella of the righteous. So, because being sinners, they steal. Anyway, but
Right.
so I mean, my point is that it's part of the when it rains like this in Lagos, at
Yeah.
least for the period of the rain, which is still falling, then we tend to fall. The whole traffic seems to build up.
So,
And,
the
I-
discussion,
yeah.
yes, we'll be having today
Yeah.
will be whether the budget was made for the rainy day or not. This week has been the budget 20 for next year, presented by President Muhammadu Buhari to the joint sitting of the National Assembly, and the clock is ticking because the common saying from executive and National Assembly has been that they want to go to a January-December schedule, and whether that's possible or not. But the program you can follow on Twitter at Public Square NG, at Nigeria Info FM, at Awogo Obo, at Rotimi Sankore, at IDS Radio NG, at Ninja Ma. Any of these handles you can tweet at us. We can also take your questions and comments on WhatsApp 0809-597-5805. First with the ideas segment. If we've got any of those comments, I'll have to refer them to Ayo after she's finished with the ideas, because we get a number of comments on the ideas segment on WhatsApp.
Really?
Oh yes, we do.
No, unfortunately, you may the questions may have to wait until the following week.
Yes.
But I mean, it's quite interesting because when we talk about the budget, I know that in the main public square, you are going to be looking at the wider political picture, the wider economic picture that it tells. But for us, from the ideas perspective, as you know, we're looking at integrity, we're looking at ethics, and we're looking at accountability. And all of those play into the value of democracy in the eyes of the electorate. So that from an ideas perspective, we want to see the extent to which the promises that are made, which cause people to exercise their democratic choices, are reflected in the budget that the president has presented to the National Assembly. Although our main focus, Rotimi, will be on the national budget, I think that we can't afford to overlook the fact that we also have our state budgets, and they're always giving them these tags: budget of hope, budget of that, budget, and to this one is a budget of continued consolidation. But I've been speaking from one of the issues that is of particular interest to me. I have to say that the near pittance awarded to the social investment programs was a big surprise, because it's one of the things that distinguish the current administration, not just
That is the 30 billion.
Yes, the 30 billion as opposed to what had been being paid before. Not just because the way that program was being administered was being said to be very much on a non-partisan basis. It wasn't that the list of the poor was drawn up on the basis of who was on the party register, but a real assessment of who was poor and their needs. And now we find that even though in the very same budget that he's reaffirming his commitment to the social investment programs, the president is announcing a figure of just 30 billion for the social investment programs, which is, I mean, it's
Which
more
is
than a
really-
90% drop
Yes.
in its.
And it's one of the few forms of, if it can be described as social security
Yes.
in the process. So, in other words, a reduction means a reduction in social security.
Yeah, and you see, I think that people also would end up looking at the amount that is devoted to the social investment program. I mean, and the president has tried to also corral under that the money that had been devoted to, dedicated rather, to the Northeast Development Fund. I'm not sure about an NP.
But that's with very specific.
Yeah, but he's trying to sort of kind of corral them together. But even then, the amount is really small, and I don't know the extent to which that is a promise fulfilled, or how we see it. I don't think that the presidential declaration of commitment to social investment programs sits easily with this. And I'm aware that we have state governments that have their own social investment programs, but not all state governments do. And I think also that it doesn't sit, that kind of pittance doesn't sit very easily when we look at the huge amount that's devoted to the running of the presidency, the running of the National Assembly, I may even say the running of the judiciary, that you compare those amounts, huge as they
Yeah,
are.
the judiciary, many people would argue, is underfunded. So
Yes, it may be underfunded,
Yes.
and many also feel that the National Assembly is grossly overfunded. There it goes. But
so much so that some people are now calling for scrapping of one chamber.
well, I mean, as we saw in Italy, they recently, and let's not forget that Italy is a country where somebody who makes his living as a comedian almost became the prime minister. His party, the Five-Star Movement, certainly won a huge number of votes. So the comedians had decided, the people who like comedians in government had decided that they should abolish their upper house and save themselves a huge amount of money. But here, it's not just that our upper house is not smelling the coffee or hearing the music of time. They are actually doubling down on the amounts that they think they're entitled to. And you find some of the ones who have nothing to say wisely keep silent. But there are some who will even come out and say and use terms like deserve.
Well, they claim, haven't they, that they work very hard.
Yes, they do. But let me not divert myself away from the National Assembly to the, from the budget to the National Assembly, because I think that we also have to look at when we've had a situation where the International Monetary Fund has been to Nigeria and has looked at our economy and our finances and has warned against I think the term they used was over-optimistic projections. I think that it becomes a question of honesty
And the
therefore
president has responded that their
of
data is
integrity.
not.
Well, no, I'm coming to what the president has said, but I think that when it comes to, you get these clear statements, and then it's a matter of honesty, and therefore, from our ideas perspective, it's a matter of integrity. Whether you pretend that all is well, and you say that I'm still going on with my projected income from this source and that source, when in fact you know that that money is not coming. And you also know that the monies that are going to be paid out first are not necessarily those that will be of the greatest benefit and value to the people of Nigeria. But to come back to your point about the figures, you see, it's one thing for somebody who is not in government to make free fall statements about the source of statistics and figures. But we have in this country the National Bureau of Statistics,
Right.
which is extremely well regarded. And part of the reason why it's well regarded and well respected is because its figures know no political color. You know, it may have wrong methods, or what you may quarrel with those, but you cannot say that the figure that yesterday was X is now wrong when it was yesterday you were happy with that figure being described as X, but today, because it doesn't, you now start, you know, attacking the source of the figures. And I think this is part of again, it goes to integrity about how you present yourself, because if you're not being honest to the people, then the people also have to ask, are you being honest to yourself about what your political, what your economic projections and so on. I'm aware that the government is now boasting that it's having a lot more income from non-oil sources, and that therefore we shouldn't say that because the price of oil is this or that, or because oil production is that or something else, that income will not be as it is. But I think that there should be some clarity about what is expected, because this is a country where 2 years ago the big boast was about how much was being realized from JAMB, how much was being realized from the customs, now that honest people were in charge. And if people of integrity were in charge last year, then is that money being reflected and so on?
There's a question regarding whether the budget is able to fulfill the promises made during the election, which a lot of people have asked. Bola Olojode, who is an economist, has joined us, accountant as well. And welcome, Bola.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
So,
Hello, madam. Good to see you.
so, you know, big question for IO-based idea segment as to whether the budget comes anywhere near fulfilling the promises made during the election to lift millions of people out of poverty.
It's a far cry from where we need to be. The other time I was talking about this, I said a good way to have a feel of whether the size of the cake has increased is if we decide to convert it to dollars. And if you take our budget over the last decade and you denominate it on the dollar rate for those respective years, you'll be surprised that the cake size has remained literally around the same.
But is it right for us to do that when in 2015 $1 was going for 180 naira, and in 2019 $1 is going for about 360?
Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. Because if we leave it in naira, we have an impression, for example, that in 2012, when budget was 4.9 trillion, and now it is 10.33 trillion, the impression is, oh, it has doubled.
Yes, but we're not spending dollars in
We're not
Nigeria.
spending dollars in Nigeria, but we now have a lot of things that have dollar implication. We earn dollars.
Yeah, but if I'm buying yam in the market, I'm not buying
The
it
budget
in-
is anchored on the price of a barrel of
so you get more money.
and most of the machinery.
more money, but what can it buy? That is exactly where I'm going. So today, I might have 10.33 trillion. Does it have the purchasing power of what I will do with 10 naira now? Does it have the same purchasing power as 10 naira in 2012?
Well, as
Not-
I said,
not-
I mean, from in ideas we deal with integrity and ethics and accountability, and that's why we're talking about whether promises have been made, are they being
We
kept?
need to take a break from the ads.
Okay, the outside.
Then we're going to come to the end of our ideas.
No, not necessarily,
Okay,
but we do
then
need to take
I'll
a
come
break
back.
for the
I'll come
answer.
back and wrap up.
Yes.
All right, so let's take a quick break. We're back. This engaging discussion on the budget 2020. Please keep listening. All right, welcome back. It is 24 minutes to 5. How time flies when you're having a great discussion with ideas. IOB.
Yes, I should just wrap up the ideas segment because I hear that we're on the cusp of our 15-minute slot. But I just wanted to ask because, I've already complained about the lack of investment or the reduced investment in social investment policies. It may be that it's hidden somewhere and, an ignoramus like me does not know where it's been hidden. But another aspect is the infrastructural investment because, a lot of us believe that with Nigerians, you give us the tools and we will do the job, we will finish the job. And so that while it may not be clear where certain monies are coming from, by the time Nigerians have roads and electricity, that
Nice
by
one.
the time we have the, let me not say if, let me say by the time we have those, then in theory the economy will take off. So is it that we can see that there is some investment going into these areas of transport, electricity and these other infrastructure which will allow Nigerians to actually create their own wealth by themselves?
Yes, on the face of the budget, yes. But the problem over a couple of years now has been how much of the budget is actually funded. That is number one. Number two is, I hope we'll get past it this year. If you look at last year, capital releases did not start until the third quarter.
Yeah.
So if you start to release for capital project in quarter three, how much can you really do before the year runs out? But here we are this year, maybe we'll have the budget in place in January. Hopefully, if we have, look at 2018 budget was, I think, about 67% funded. So we had expected 100, we got 67. It means that whatever we have allocated had to be pro rata. Our entire capital budget, again, is likely to be borrowed.
Oh dear. And that means that we're going to be spending a huge amount.
There's a
Anyway,
huge
as I said,
deficit.
I'm not going to, I think I should draw a line under my ideas issues because I think that the whole essence of what we're effectively looking at is how much honesty there is about what we're getting, what we intend to do with it, and what we can actually do with it. And my sense is that expectations are being raised, a lot of stuff is being papered over, and that at the end of the, when we come to this point next year, and the President is reporting on performance of the 2020 budget, we may find that we don't have a lot to show for it. But as I said, I'm hoping that...
That will not be the narrative by the time we get to that junction. I hope so too. For me, I said, maybe we can make this year a budget of trust, in which we go back and build a bit of trust with the people.
But how can we build trust
How we
when
can do is if
already
we
we
say-
have a problem with the
We said we're not bringing in new projects, for example. So what it means is that if we had said we will complete, say, Lagos Ibadan in 2020, let's just complete
Finish
Lagos
it.
Ibadan. And people see it and they say, oh, the road is there and standing. If we said we're going to do this other
The
one,
railway.
let's just put it in place and let people see it. When you do that, you rebuild the lost
Then you
trust of
create
our-
Not launch the train, use it small for 1 week.
And
And then after that, there's no
Well,
train.
I want to thank you for coming on to the ideas segment. I've missed the young lady from budget, but because I know that Rain was also beating her road here. But so I will leave her in the public square and hope that another day I will catch you with my ideas and we will see about integrity democracy, ethics and accountability. So thank you very much, listeners, for joining us in the Ideas segment of the Public Square. Back to you, Rotimi Amoro.
Thank you so much. So we switch gears slightly to